The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
A very scary experience.
You know, God is a solution. God, the 12 step.
I like where he's going here.
Helps the community grow, helps us grow.
Monty has done a phenomenal job.
Lack of open-mindedness.
And you're talking about taking people through a spiritual process and getting them into recovery.
Thanks, Monty, and thanks for all your support.
We need spirituality to make this thing work long term.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
And now, broadcasting on location somewhere in the vast expanse of the Pacific Northwest, it's the over-opinionated 12-stepologist, the Monty'man.
Well, welcome, family. This is the Monty'man. I am here at the Come Rest a While fundraiser and barbecue at the TV Elks Lodge in Tualatin, Oregon. And I'm going to come over here to this table right here, and I'm going to interrupt these ladies while they're chatting. And hi, you guys.
Hi.
All right. So when I put this in your face, just think of it as a beautiful flower, right? Okay, and talk right into it because it's important to be talking about what we're talking about. Addiction is the number one health crisis in our world today, and recovery from it gets the least amount of attention because of stigma. And so that's what Take 12 Radio is all about, is about breaking stigma. So let me talk to Nancy Engelman. Did I get that right? All right, Nancy. Tell us about Come Rest a While and what this function is about today.
Okay, Come Rest a While. Our mission is to offer a safe and supportive environment for women in recovery from substance abuse. They come and stay with us from treatment. They stay 3 to 6 months is the average. They were 6 to 9 months. I ask that they think about 3 months to get a strong leg in recovery. There they get the support of other recovering women. I have 38 and a half years of recovery.
Congratulations.
And I am the co-founder and director, thank you. And I live there and offer support and a little bit of mentoring and help them get on their way to a strong recovery in a new life. That's what we're about.
Now the gals that come into your facility, are some of them coming out of the correctional institutions, treatment centers, off the street? How do they enter into Come Rest a While?
Most of them come from treatment centers. I get calls from treatment centers all over the country. And they've finished treatment, and the counselors, whoever, their family, feel they should go someplace else for a while and get strong before they go back to their former life or start a life someplace else. You know, and some of them have children at home, some of them have parents at home, and they're not quite ready to go back with family and need to find another way. They age from 18 on up. I have a variety of ages. I've had as young as 18, I've had as old as 69. And they're all there for the same reason, to get into recovery and start a new life.
Well, you're doing phenomenal work, and I congratulate you. And you've been on the show before. And our YouTube channel got a lot of hits, by the way. You're a popular gal. And I read the local newspaper's article on your barbecue last year. You're well loved and well liked.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
You bet. Now, you say you're the...
It's changed my life, yes.
Now, you say you're the co-founder. So who's the other founder?
The other founder is named Mickey O'Donnell, also in recovery. We started this together. And 2 years in, she moved to Hawaii and left me here. And
oh, no.
There. Yeah. And she's still in Hawaii. Yeah.
Right. I know how that goes. I've been in similar situations where we've started something, and then the people that started it with us, God moved them on to something else, right?
That's right. And I want to say this, we have helped over 300 women since July 1st, 2001, when we opened the doors. And a lot of these women keep coming back. They come back and have dinner with us. They come back and meet the other women. They're out there in the community in recovery. And that's what it's about.
That's great. So now what do you hope to accomplish this year at this year's function?
Raise money.
That's right. And we can't be afraid to ask for that, right?
No. We have to have a fundraiser, yeah. Get a little more money in the till to help more people.
Yeah, and I got to tell you guys, I'm amazed at your raffle tables. Being a member of the recovery community for 28 years, I've seen a lot of raffles come and go, and this is pretty doggone impressive, don't you think so?
Thank you. Yeah, our silent auction gifts are so wonderful. We have everything from pest control to fancy jewelry. And everything in between. Isn't that wonderful?
That's great. That's great. Well, Nancy, thank you so much. I'll be talking to you again probably later on today. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, and I'm going to zip on over here. And you are?
I'm Sharon D. from Hillsboro, Oregon. I have in recovery for 27 years. And I assist Nancy at Come Rest Awhile for 15 hours a week. And it's just been a real pleasure for me to be there and see these women grow week by week and month by month and one day at a time. It's really great.
Yeah, you bet. Heartbreaking sometimes?
Oh, you bet it is. It's a very difficult disease that we have. And sometimes we don't grab the bull by the horns on the first try, and it takes time after time after time, and it can be very heartbreaking when you see someone go back out and do things that are hurting them emotionally, mentally, physically. Yeah, it can be very heartbreaking.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Now, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but there are sober living homes that are probably, hopefully, there's sobriety, but maybe not necessarily sanity. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You guys don't mess around, do you? You guys are pretty strict. I mean, they're going to do the deal or they're not going to live there, true?
Exactly. And we have rules in our home. The women have to go to 3 AA meetings a week or NA a week, hopefully daily, but at least 3 a week. Also, if they use, they are out immediately. It has to be for the safety of the other women. You know, we're all in recovery there, even if we don't live there. I don't live there, but still.
It's not a treatment center where somebody, their disease acts up, and because we know parity says that you can't throw somebody out because their disease is acting up because they're sick. We get it. But this is a sober living home. It's a different kind of situation.
Boy, you hit the nail on the head. Yes, there are women there recovering from heroin abuse, from cocaine abuse, from pills, from alcohol. We don't have too many pure alcoholics anymore.
What happened to the good old boys and gals, right?
Yeah, really. No, there aren't too many of us left. There's a lot out there now that's easy to make, that's cheap, that's out on the streets, and people will buy it and use it. We have to realize that when this disease is active, it's very dangerous for everybody, even involved with the person who's addicted and who's acting out right now.
Yeah, and just because a person is asked to leave doesn't mean there's condemnation or judgment. It's the way it is because you have to have a structure that is safe. Otherwise, it can poison the whole house.
That's right, exactly. Oh, yeah. There are times when they go back into treatment. We call their sponsors, we call their families, we try to get them help. It's not like we kick them out the door and say, so long, sis sucker or something. No, we don't do that. But we just can't have people around that are using, our facility.
Right. Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome, Monty. Thanks.
All right. I'm gonna come over here, and you're next. You're my next victim. I'm gonna sit down because my back is hurting a little bit. And you are?
My name is Penny.
Hi, Penny. And how are you associated with this event and Come Rest Awhile?
I attend a lot of meetings with Nancy. We go to the same church together. I've I've not been a resident at her home, but I've known a lot of women who have, and I've only been up here for 3 years from Southern California, and this is the first time I've been this close to a woman's sober living home, and I think it's remarkable. I've been in recovery for about 18 years now, a little over 18 years, and it's, for me, this is not just a non-drinking program. This is a life-changing program, and I see Nancy carrying that into her message with the women that stay at her home. It's not just about putting down, that's important. Put down the drink, put down the drug, but we're not going to stay that way unless we get some life-changing things going with us, and I get that through a very good program, and I love to see the women come into the meetings I attend that live with her, and I've seen them over the past 3 years, and it's a joy to see them grow and to experience some freedom and happiness that they didn't know was possible.
Now, I'm going to touch on an issue that I very rarely do a show or cover an event where this doesn't come up, and sometimes other people bring it up. If they don't, I do. Because I think it's a topic that we dance around a lot in today's recovery circles, and I think we can't afford to do that. And I think it's caused a watered down effect in many fellowships today, and that's the whole spiritual thing. I don't even like the word spiritual; it's way too broad for me. But for lack of a better term, I believe that we need to treat the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. And so many times we're not doing that. I'm kind of getting from just what you shared that you're one of these people that believe in the whole package.
Oh, definitely. I'm powerless, and I have a program that will help me find the power that will solve my problem. And I had a very big book kind of sponsor in California for the first 15 years, and women will tease me up here because I'll rattle off pages. But that's where my life came from. That's where, and I know the book was written 78 years ago, or less than that actually, but the message is still the same. Look for a power that's not my thinking. Look for some other power, and at first I found it in the fellowship. But that wasn't going to be enough because the fellowship was made up of a bunch of sick minds just like me.
0 + 0 is 0, right?
Yes. So I got the support, and I have in my definition or my experience, the relationship with the higher power changes moment by moment because I'm changing moment by moment because of that power. Because of that power. And I choose to call that power God, but it doesn't matter what you call it. And I love being in this area that we are up here in Oregon and just see the beauty of what, I can see new life happening all the time around me. And that's what this is about, new life.
And I think if people actually do, see if you agree with this, if people actually do the work, if they actually get into the literature and they follow the instructions, however, for lack of a better term, insignificant or wrong, maybe some even people might say their conception of God may be, if they're willing to be open to some new things, put aside some of the old ideas, even if they're right, because we can get those back if they're right, that we're going to come to a crossroads, right? And I think we're going to meet our Creator there, and more will be revealed, and then we can experience a state of recovery.
I agree. It's a like I said, a life-changing program, and I cannot change myself. If I could, I wouldn't be here. I can't, and I've tried that before. But I believe that I was in a big book workshop when I first got sober. Well, I've been in many, but one of my first ones, and the co-leader said, when we got to that second step, being willing to believe, and he said, maybe it's just a willingness right now. He said, if you do these steps in the order and the best that you can, by the time you get to the 12th step, there will be some other power in your life. I can promise you that. And that's worked for me. It's worked for women that I work with. It's always that power, new life, transforming power. 6 and 7, that's where the action takes place, that changing, the transformation, this is a great program. This is a great opportunity for people who are struggling with addictions and just can't understand why just putting it down isn't doing enough.
Yeah. We have a lot of platitudes that aren't going to solve the problem. Just don't drink in between meetings. Don't pick up no matter what. 90 meetings in 90 days. Get a sponsor, read the stat. Those are all wonderful things to do. But if we don't have a spiritual awakening as a result of, you can't have one as a result of steps you don't work, right?
That's right. It's exactly right. No, this is, the promises say, it works if you work it. It works when you work it, because you have to apply. We can do everything, helping somebody understand and work through these steps. We can't make the newcomer willing. That comes as an inside job. They have to be the willing person. But hopefully they'd come to enough fellowship, they can get that experience, strength, and hope, information, that connection, and then realize, I got to get into action, not into results, because that will happen. The results will happen. I got to get into action. And that's pen to paper, that's book in front of me. Then there's specific instructions, specific clear-cut directions on how to work these steps in that one book. And many other books that are very supportive of 12-step, based on the 12-step. They talk about these steps, but the big book tells you, here's specifically how we're to do this step. Now this step, then you do this. That's what I need, the structure, because otherwise self-will run riot.
Yeah, I'm going to make this statement and ask you one more question, and then talk to some other folks. But when I was new, I was going to a quote-unquote step study, and they were going out of the 12 and 12, and I couldn't figure out why I didn't know what to do. And then I had the guy is now the chairman of our board of directors. He said because the instructions and the directions aren't in there, they're in the big book, and so it's a great book, but it isn't going to teach you how to apply and implement these steps. And so we need to go back to the instructions. I always talk about the first swing set I ever put together. I decided I wasn't going to follow the instruction because I was a guy and I knew how to do it. And on my son's birthday, I think it was his 5th birthday or something, the thing came tumbling down. All because I was too prideful at it, and so I went back and I found that there was a reason why there was leftover screws and parts.
Yes. I agree. There's clear-cut directions in the book, and the 12 and 12 is great. I mean, that was written, 12, 13 years after. And especially, the 6th and 7th step, there's only one paragraph on each one in the big book. And the 12 and 12 goes into some more detail about it, some more, whys and why we're doing this, why we need it, what's happening. I'm very glad for further information, but still the directions are in the book. That's all there is to it, and I need direction.
Yep, amen to that. Okay, and one question I was going to ask you, you mentioned church. Have you experienced any kind of opposition from people of faith that may not understand the 12-step concept and may think that there's some weird stuff going on there, and you find that you kind of need to clear the air about some things? Have you experienced that yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Number one, I've heard people refer to us as a cult.
Oh, yeah, you bet.
And but then, yes, I've had people say, well, no, if you just follow this other big book, and do this, it'll work. I don't believe the instructions aren't in that other big book like they are in the big book.
For the specific thing that we're talking about. Yeah, we're talking about a very specialized area here.
And I've had people that have no concept of a higher power in their life, have a very conservative, rigid, one, and they feel that some people feel there's too much Christian overtone in the big book, and there's other people who think there's not enough.
Not enough.
Okay, wait. This is step 2. I love what Bill says in his story. You know, when his friend Evie said, for heaven, they argued about, this idea of a higher power. And Evie finally said, for gosh sakes, Bill, just choose your own concept of a higher power. And Bill said, the icy intellectual mountains in whose shadows he had stood and shivered for years began to melt away.
How can you argue with that?
My own concept. Right. And that's what I offer other people when your own concept.
That's good enough to start with. You've got to start somewhere.
I've got your card, and I will listen to you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to some more folks here at the Come Rest a While fundraiser and annual barbecue in Tualatin, Oregon at the TV Elks Lodge. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
I've seen a power greater. I've seen a power greater than myself.
It is only by the power greater than ourselves that we are restored to sanity. And by the same token, it is only by that power that KHLT Recovery Broadcasting and the Take 12 Recovery radio shows are able to broadcast every day. We'd like to give special thanks and honor to our higher power for allowing us to serve you.
Drowning souls, giving fresh breath.
All right, welcome back, folks. And we are here at the Come Rest a While fundraiser and barbecue event here in Tualatin at the TV Elks Lodge. And sitting with me right now is
Linda.
Hi, Linda. What's your association with the event and Come Rest a While?
Well, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I never stayed at Come Rest a While, but I am aware of the house, and I go over and help out. I bring them their Christmas tree every year, and it's a great place.
How long have you been doing the recovery thing yourself?
30 years.
Wow. And you've been in some form of service a lot of that time?
Different things, yeah. 30 years, one day at a time.
There you go. So service work just isn't pouring coffee, being a GSR at a meeting, opening the door. I mean, it can go way beyond that, right?
Well, it includes sponsorship. And I think that that's a really big part. Excuse me. When I got sober, they told me to get a sponsor, and I did that pretty quickly. And I've had a sponsor all my sobriety, and I work the steps diligently. We're never done with that.
Okay, why diligent?
Oh, because otherwise I might relapse. I'm very aware of that.
Because the disease is diligent, true?
Oh, yeah. It's waiting. So, I've had the same sponsor for 29 years, and she's wonderful.
That's a long time to have a sponsor. That is really, congratulations. That's neat.
She knows me really well, and that's the one advantage of having a sponsor and sticking with that same person over your sobriety, because they get to know you really well, and you can't get away with a whole lot.
And so I am assuming that you sponsor.
I do.
Okay. And when you're sponsoring somebody, what's one of the first questions or directives that you give them?
It depends how long they've been sober. Actually, I've never sponsored in all my time a brand new woman.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know why, but so oftentimes they've already been working with a sponsor, and they might have done some steps already. So I just usually go back to whatever step I think is pertinent. Oftentimes it's step 4. It depends. If they don't have a very strong spiritual basis, then it might be 2 and 3.
Sure.
Usually by the time I get them, they're real clear on 1. They have no power over alcohol.
And that's something that's got to be, we've got to really come to an understanding of that. And sometimes that takes some time. I mean, one of the things that I emphasize a lot is the doctor's opinion over and over and over again,
right.
Because sometimes people just aren't hearing it, particularly friends and family members of, right? I mean, why can't they just buck up and get it right?
You mean the normal drinkers?
Yeah. Those who just don't get this thing.
They're not gonna get it. They can't get it because they're not experiencing it. It's like anything else in life. If you're not actually experiencing it, you probably are not going to understand it.
Yeah, and that's no judgment on them or anything.
No, not at all. My nephew and myself are the only alcoholics in the family. And I had the privilege this last summer of 12-stepping him. And he's got, I think, 100 days now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, but everybody else in our family seems to be a normal drinker, including my husband.
Do they have a hard time understanding your nephew?
They don't get it. No, they don't. They don't understand him. And it's so funny to hear them sitting around talking about it because I just keep quiet. You know,
I know. I hear you.
I can't make anybody understand what it's like.
That's why I like to approach it. Working with others, it talks about leaving the book the first time, and sometimes people just have to kind of discover things on their own, or when they're ready. That sometimes the family members have to work harder than the addict or alcoholic themselves. True.
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, to tell you the truth. I feel like I'm so privileged to be in AA and have the program because it gives me a foundation for life. I don't know what other people do. I don't know how they get through their issues in life.
Sometimes they don't.
Without the program. I mean, I find that in sobriety, my higher power, who I choose to call God, can help me through anything. And in 30 years, I've been through a lot. And there's no reason to take a drink, no matter what happens. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to scoot on over here and talk to you. Is that okay? All right. All right. And your name is?
My name is Margaret.
Margaret, are you enjoying yourself so far?
Yes.
Margaret, what's your association with Come Rest a While?
Well, I'm just somebody who has 28 years of sobriety and goes to meetings. And one of my new friends, whom I've met since I moved here, asked me to buy a ticket, so I went ahead. I used to be in Southern California, and I always had some kind of relationship with a recovery home, if only to buy the raffle tickets that they were selling during their fundraisers.
So you answered the call to help support, and you came. Have you known Nancy very long, or is this the first time you met her?
I have met Nancy a couple of times this year, going to various Portland area women's meetings. So it's a face that I recognize, and I enjoyed talking with her again today. But Harriet's the one who sold me the ticket.
Okay, so in 28 years, what have you experienced in your observing people has been probably the most helpful thing a person can experience in the 12-step process? What has been the most encouraging and most helpful that you see working other people's lives?
Well, I think it's the same thing that I experienced for myself, which is letting go of resentments and gaining the insight that I had something to do with those resentments, understanding that if there's a difficulty in my life, there's a good chance that I played a part, and it's something I can change and fix. Now, that's not true for everything that affects people. I mean, I have sponsored people who were badly abused, and it wasn't their fault, and they didn't have any part in it. But I always explain to them, your part now is to let go of it and stop carrying it around. But the 12 steps can be very transforming, and when you see people do them, you can really tell the difference. You really can.
Yeah.
It's an intangible thing. It's worth over $1 million, and you can't buy it. You know, you have to do. You have to do the footwork. You have to work the steps. And for me, and I've seen other people experience this as well, for me, it really, you develop tools which make it possible for you to go through life without being angry so much. And I see a lot of people who are still angry out there, and I feel for them because it's such a painful place to be.
It is. And you touched on something that is so important. I think we need to stop, when it comes to people that have been abused, we need to stop telling them, well, what was your part? What was your part? What was your part? Because there is that exception, and we're always trying so hard to get them to find their part. Well, if you've been abused, the only part you played was that you were there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I've never seen anybody work the steps like that. I mean, I've always told the people that I sponsor that the way for them to get away from the pain, it's never completely gone usually, but certainly the way to live with less pain is to start forgiving the abusers and understanding that they were repeating behaviors that were probably done to them by somebody else.
Yep.
And so what we learn how to do is we learn how to pray for the person, even if we think they're a jerk or worse. But after a while, you pray for them to have the good things that you want for yourself, and if you've been working the steps and if you've embraced the idea that the best part of recovery is giving it away and looking out for other people, then you know the things you want for yourself are going to be things that involve a closeness to whatever your higher power is, and a closeness to other people. And if you wish that for the people that you've spent your whole life hating, after a while you realize if they were to get that, it would be transforming for them as well.
Yeah.
It gives you get a sense of empathy for everybody after a while.
You do. And that's something many of us didn't have.
Right. Yeah, well, particularly if you were wrapped up in yourself as much as I was when I got...
Me too. I often tell people, I'm all I think about all day long.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time with me.
Thank you.
All right, enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to sneak up on my buddy Jim Conway. Jim Conway's standing right here.
Here I am. I'm standing looking at bracelets and necklaces.
Look at all these raffle things, Jim.
Yeah, I know. I like silent
raffles.
raffles.
What is Jim Conway doing over here at this all-women's fundraiser?
Well, I'm walking down the circle, so I passed the barbecue to establish my male credentials.
That's right.
Then I could loosen up and look at the jewelry. This is a great event, Monty, and I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here too. What fun! I was telling Nancy and Sharon that in all the years that I've been doing this stuff and been around the rooms and conventions and stuff, this is one of the nicest layouts of auction material and prizes. I mean, look how organized it is. This is amazing. It's obvious that the women were behind it.
That's right. Yeah, it's well designed. It's well presented, well laid out. And if you're not here, you should be. This is a really great program to support. Does a lot of good work. I mean, seeing the alumni here, you can see how good they got launched and supported in their recovery, and that's really great.
Well, it's really good to see you again, as always. Long time no see, just a couple days ago.
A couple days, yes. We hang in the same circle.
That's right, Jim. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Lisa, what is your association, if any, with Come Rest a While? How do you know these folks, and what are you doing here today, besides enjoying yourself and eating some good food?
Well, we're here supporting Come Rest a While, and Nancy Engman is a dear friend of mine. I want to be just like Nancy Engman. I hope I can live a life that follows in her footsteps, I guess. I'm also trying to help women in recovery. We have a recovery residence in Hillsborough modeled after Nancy's. Come Rest a While. Ours is called Peace of Joe, and we basically help out the same women that she's helping out.
Do you guys have a website?
We do. It's www.peaceofjoe.org.
Okay, why Peace of Joe? I'm just curious. I got to ask that.
Sure. It's named after my dad, and he was in recovery for 46 years. And peace, P-E-A-C-E, that's our thing. We feel it's really important for women in recovery from drugs and alcohol to have a peaceful, safe, clean, and sober environment so that they can learn how to work the 12 steps and proceed and transition into the next part of their life.
All right, so you've been doing this thing personally yourself for how long?
Not very long. We've only been open for 8 months. I met Nancy Ingman a couple of years ago, and she convinced me that there's a huge need. There's lots of women in recovery that could benefit from stuff like this, and I went for it. It wasn't actually my idea, but I don't want to say she talked me into it, but here I am, and we're doing it. It's a lot of rewarding work.
Oh, okay, there is, and I mentioned this earlier today, and I've mentioned it on our show quite a bit, and probably people are tired of hearing me say it, but I have to. There is a concern amongst the sober living communities that there are some sober living environments that maybe aren't so much sober living. There are places that's the rule of thumb, no drugs or alcohol, but everything else is fair game. That's not really recovery, is it?
No, absolutely not. In fact, we follow Nancy's model. We have a very strict program. We don't give chances, I guess. You have to abstain from all drugs and all alcohol. If you're on any medications, we need to know about them. They have to be administered by us, or there's no gray area here. There just isn't in recovery. The addict mind wants to do whatever it wants, and it can't do that. In fact, our house, like Nancy's house, like Come Rest a While, we insist that all residents work a 12-step program and have a sponsor and go to meetings. It's a requirement. I've actually said to a gal, if you're not willing to work the 12 steps, we don't really want you here, because you're just not going to fit in. And on a daily basis, the things that you need to deal with in life are going to become too big of a burden for you, and we won't be able to do anything to help you if you're not willing to work a 12-step program. So there is a lot of recovery residences in the area of sober living in Hillsborough, and some of them are kind of, they're not as strict. And there's other things, we don't allow yelling. There's no violence or threats of violence. There's a lot of things that go along with recovery that we feel are important as parts of this. There's structure. You've got to be in by a certain time. There's certain things that are expected of you, that are expected of everyone that is living a clean and sober life. So there's a lot more to it than just, hey, my thing was booze, so I'm going to give up booze. That's not recovery.
Right. And so I'm suspecting that even internet access is probably monitored, correct? I mean, you just can't go anywhere on the internet that you want to if you're learning to be a productive member of society, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, that's a good point. Hadn't actually thought of that. We've got a lot of stuff that we do on the internet that is recovery based. There's all kinds of things. Even on Facebook, you can, there's Life After Meth and Alcoholics Anonymous, this and that, and
Take 12 Radio.
Take 12 Radio. There's a lot of great resources out there for recovery. I mean, you have to focus 100%. You have to work this program as if your life depends on it, because it does.
Because the problem, even though narcotics and alcohol come with its own set of problems, for those of us who are allergic, that really isn't the core problem, is it?
No, it wasn't my core problem. I should tell you, I was out there for 35 years. I partied for 35 years. I went to a party when I was like 14 years old. I came back, I had gray hair. Okay, and there it was, 35 years of doing the wrong thing. My initial problem wasn't drugs and alcohol. My initial problem was that I was not okay with things in this planet. Things weren't right inside of me. I didn't feel, I was weird. I didn't fit in. I mean, I fit in somewhere, but not here, not on this planet. So I had all kinds of things going on inside of me that I fixed with drugs and alcohol. Initially.
Yeah, they were your solution, right, at the time?
Absolutely. That was my solution. Turned out the worst idea I ever had. But, and it was not the solution. So, yeah, that's not the gist of it. Of course, we can't just take away the drugs and the alcohol. By the way, I tried that. I tried to take away just the drugs. Then I had 2 hands available to drink. So then I tried just taking away the alcohol. And then I felt like, well, I reckon that to be like surgery without the anesthesia. Don't do it at home.
Wow, that's a good point. That is a really good point. So just removing the substance and not doing anything else, the substance is probably going to come back, or worse, because there are worse things than going back to the drugs or the alcohol, right?
Sure, I was ready to kill myself. Or you, depending on, what my mood was that day. But yeah, and there's always, I know where to get alcohol. Right, and I'm pretty sure I can hook up with anything else I want too. So that was becoming painfully apparent to me after a short time without the program. Let me just say that in a very short period of time, compared to my long history of using everything under the planet, there's nothing I haven't done. I'm not proud of that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But after a very short period of time, just a few years in the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, my life has changed. It's been, I'm a miracle. I'm a miracle of modern science and medicine, okay? I am the hopeless case that made it to the rooms. And I can tell you that this is, for me, that's why I'm so enthusiastic about the whole thing. Because in a short period of time, it did for me what nothing else could ever do for me in my whole life. And I tried everything.
Well, I congratulate you. And you're definitely enthusiastic about what you do. You have a passion for it. And that's what we need, because a lot of people are getting kind of complacent in the rooms of recovery these days. And sometimes we just need to get excited again, because what's the alternative? We see jails, institutions, and death, and we kind of joke about that, but it's really not funny, because that is very real, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You only see complacency for a little while in the rooms, because then we don't see him at all. A friend of mine who's now passed away, he drank himself to death, but he used to say, complacency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Anyways.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Lisa, thank you so much. Lisa here at Come Rest Awhile, supporting Nancy Engelman and the fundraising event, the barbecue here. Just a reminder, folks, if you would like Take 12 Radio to come out and cover your event, we are able to do that. And you just need to contact us here at Take 12 Radio at Comcast.net. Email us or give me a call, 541-971-6445. Thank you for tuning in here at Take12Radio.com on your internet dial. Recovery Talk and Positive Music. We're at the Come Rest a While fundraiser barbecue event here in Tualatin, Oregon. For those of you who aren't from the area, that's right outside of Portland. And I'm sitting at the table right now with an alumni from Come Rest a While. What's your name?
Sarah.
Sarah. Yeah. That is a beautiful name. What nationality is that?
My dad's from Pakistan.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Tell me about your experience at Come Rest a While.
About 2 years ago, I was living there. I lived there for a couple months after I got out of treatment, and it was a really, really, really good experience for me. The first time I got out of treatment, I tried to live on my own, and it didn't work. So being able to have Come Rest a While to go to was a huge help for me.
So how long were you in treatment before you went to Come Rest a While?
Almost 70 days.
Okay. So it wasn't a 30-day spin cycle. They're a little longer than that. Okay. But even with the extended past 30 days, almost 90 days actually, you still felt that you needed a little something extra instead of just going out into the wild blue yonder and trying to do things on your own. Would you recommend that to most people?
Yeah, I would recommend. I'd recommend going to treatment for longer than the short-term period, just because having the extra sort of protection that being in treatment gives you helps, and then when you go to the sober living, you get to experience daily life and the triggers and the problems and the issues, but then you have a safe place to come home to. So it just gives you kind of like a double, extra safety.
Okay, so take us through the average day at sober living for you.
The average day was that we had to get up early.
How early?
Well, we didn't technically have to get up early. We just weren't allowed to be in bed past 10.
Okay, so no laying or sitting on your bed, right?
Right. No laying, staying in bed all day. You weren't allowed to just watch TV all the time. So we had to get up and, kind of go and do things. And everyone had an assigned chore they had to do every day. And then every night we always had dinner together. And it was always somebody's job to cook. And then we'd all sit and eat dinner together.
Okay, so when you're in the house, though, and I mean, is there a time where you sit around and you read the big book, you do devotions, you talk about your stuff, you go to meetings? I mean, you obviously are doing more than just sitting around from meal to meal, right?
Right. Every morning, people would usually get together in the living room and sort of read the morning meditation. And then throughout the day, there would always be somebody going to a meeting pretty regularly. So it would kind of be announced, I'm going to this meeting. Does anyone want to come along? And then everyone would carpool together and go and do that. And then every Tuesday night, Come Rest Awhile has its own meeting at 7. That's an open meeting, women's only open meeting.
So other people from the outside can actually come in too?
Yeah, a lot of people come. It's all the residents are required to be there. And then a lot of outside people also come.
Right. Okay, so how do you stay accountable at Come Rest Awhile? I mean, is it just by you're on your honor to say you went to a meeting? Do you have to fill out a form, or how's that work?
It's kind of a combination of there's the honor system of you do have to fill out a form, but then nobody checks up on the form. So it's sort of like you tell us that you're doing it and you fill out the form and everything, but no one's actually like following. So it usually comes that if people are lying about it, they eventually tell the truth, because every week there's a house meeting, and usually during that people will say, because everybody's talking about being accountable and being honest with each other, looking at each other, and so someone will be like, well, I didn't actually go to all the meetings I was supposed to go to.
Okay, so there's something that happens when we're out there drinking and using and running and being crazy that really puts our spirit of honesty and integrity to sleep, right? Okay, so when you come into a sober living environment, though, don't you find it interesting how that kind of creeps back? I mean, the substance is gone, so your mind's a little clearer. That kind of creeps back in. It's really hard to lie very successfully, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot harder to lie, and especially when it's with the people you're living with, because they start to know you on a deeper level, so you can't just do the superficial lying anymore, because you start to learn people's tells. And even if no one calls you out on it, it's just that underlying guilt that when you don't have the substances to numb that guilt, then you have to deal with it all the time. So when that gets taken away, you then have to feel the guilt, and you see everybody, looking at you and kind of questioning you about it, and so it sort of just makes you want to tell the truth about everything.
Right. While you were there, did you ever experience somebody getting into a little hot water? And was it uncomfortable?
I experienced a few people getting into hot water. A couple people relapsed while I was there and were not honest about it, but within a day or two, they all sort of come clean about that. And people usually held on the most to the smallest kind of lies that you wouldn't think they'd lie about, like not taking out the trash and then claiming they had taken out the trash, even though physically you can see that they hadn't taken it out, but that would be like the one thing they would like stick to. But then with bigger things, they were much more prone to admitting what was going on about that than just like the tiny little thing. So it almost seemed opposite of what you'd think would be going on.
Okay, so when you left the clean and sober living environment of Come Rest Awhile, was that kind of hard for you? I mean, to kind of step out, was that kind of strange? Did it feel weird, or were you pretty secure?
It felt weird that I was then living in a house that didn't have 9 other women in it, and there weren't people always around that I could talk to, and sort of everything becomes you're reliable on yourself basically only. So then there aren't people asking, oh, do you want to go to a meeting? Or, oh, just because you've already gone once doesn't mean you can't go again, sort of thing. And, you know, eating meals by yourself is a lot less fun than eating a meal with like 12 other people. So that's hard. And I think what helped, though, is that stepping down from like the treatment atmosphere to then the sober living atmosphere to then living on your own was a lot easier because it was a slower progression of being out on my own. Whereas with the first time when I tried to get clean and it was just like treatment to then on my own, it was such a stark difference that the sober living house really did help have kind of an intermediate.
Okay, now I want to ask you a question that's a little off topic. Okay. There is a wave of legal drugs coming down the pike. Okay. And primarily we're talking about marijuana.
Right.
All right. In the state of Washington, we know that the legalization of marijuana for the purpose of recreational use. Let's don't even talk about the medical issue.
Yeah.
Okay? Because there's all sorts of opinions of people in recovery, pro, con, and I'm not going to go there. But how do you personally feel about that? I mean, you live in Oregon, okay? And I think it's coming here. I think it's going to happen. Yeah. What's your take on it? And be honest, you know, there's no judgment here. What do you think?
I think it's, to me, legal marijuana is kind of the same as a lot of legal prescription drugs, where it's like a lot of doctors are very prone to prescribe like anti-anxiety meds, and then people just take like Xanax all the time and are basically high all the time just because they like feel some anxiety. So to me, that's the same as like just kind of like smoking a joint. Like, to me, they're kind of on the same page. So it's like, you know, I know it's not good for people to smoke weed, but I also think it's not good for the drugs that they get from their doctor.
The opiate-based pain medications are pretty bad.
The anti-anxiety stuff, like all of that stuff. To me, they're kind of on the same level as that.
Okay. Having said that, however, do you think it's responsible for society to introduce yet another mood mind-altering substance in our bag of fun?
I don't think it's very responsible, but I feel like it's kind of inevitable.
It is inevitable. Yeah, because we are living in a time where people, not just people in recovery, not just addicts and alcoholics, people in general just want the easier, softer way, right?
And I think that, you know, with marijuana, that's just another easier way. Because it's now, I mean, up in Washington, you can just go buy it wherever you want. So you don't even have to go to the doctor anymore. Like you said, it's for recreation. So it's like going to the liquor store. So, I mean, with how many problems we already have with drinking.
We didn't learn our lesson there, did we?
We didn't learn our lesson, so now we're offering people more ways to learn the same lesson.
All right. Now, how old are you?
I'm 26.
You got a lot of wisdom in a 26-year-old. Right? Really? Because there's a lot of 26-year-olds out there that are going, yeah, make it legal, man. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The thing that concerns me is, what about people getting behind the wheel of a car?
That is, I've always thought about that, and people always, you know, make jokes and say, well, when they smoke weed, they just drive so slow, so it's not that dangerous. And it's like, well, when you read, like, the studies about it, it's the same as, like, driving when you're drunk, so.
Yeah, I think with 60-some-odd% of automobile fatalities are alcohol-related. You add marijuana to the picture, it goes up another 40%. Yeah, not smart. You know.
It doesn't seem like it's very necessary to add more problems to the driving situation.
So, you know, I don't know. Maybe if everybody's stoned in the world, though, I mean, maybe people will fight less. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I don't know either.
All right, thank you so much. Now, spell your name for me.
S-A-R-A.
S-A-R-A, and it's pronounced Sarah, right? Beautiful name. Sarah, thank you for spending time with me.
Thank you.
All right. Sarah here at Come Rest a While at the fundraising event here in Tired. I'm going to run over here. I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. Hi, how are you? Thank you for sharing your story a minute ago. We didn't get it on the radio station, so I just wanted to talk to you just really quickly.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Your name is?
My name's Radhika.
Radhika.
And I'm an alcoholic.
And you are someone who has been through this Come Rest a While
program.
Uh-huh.
I've been there for 4.5 months, and I came straight out of treatment. You know, I had just hit my bottom, and I was ready to change my life, and I needed a place to sort of transition from treatment to, real life. And Come Rest a While seemed like the perfect place. I was a little apprehensive in the beginning because I didn't know what a sober house was. I didn't know what to expect, and I had never been around other alcoholics like myself before treatment, and it was, a little scary, and I had a lot of fear about it. But as soon as I got there, like I said, I was welcomed with open arms, and Nancy and the other sober women there were just amazing, and it's really kept me sober, and I have 7 months, a little over 7 months, and it's...
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's really a miracle, because the way I was drinking and the kind of alcoholic I am, it's just, that's all I can say, it's a miracle.
Yeah. Now, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 33.
Okay, 33, and you were drinking for how many years?
Probably really hard drinking for about 6 years.
Okay, that's a long time. Yeah. Okay, so it's very possible that you could have done really some irreversible damage. So thank God. Right?
Yeah, thank God, and my higher power and the women around me and in this program have just lifted me up, and I feel like invincible in a different way. Like when I was drinking, I thought I was invincible, but I wasn't. I was miserable. But
how important is the higher power piece of this whole thing?
For me, it's key. I think it's super important. Every day I wake up and I thank my higher power, who I call God, that I'm sober and that I can stay sober and that I have the choice to drink and not drink, and that I choose.
You didn't have that before.
I didn't have that choice, right. But now I have a choice.
Because now you have a power that you can tap into, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's amazing.
Radhika, who shared her story earlier at the Come Rest a While fundraiser and barbecue. Listen, we're getting ready to close out the show here. I want to thank all of you for tuning in and being a part of this. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man, and I'm wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.